Hey everybody, Nick Espinosa, your chief security fanatic here, and today we have to talk about video games because unlike what the boomers told everybody, video games may actually make your kids smarter. Here's what's going on. This is actually really interesting. It's coming from Extreme Tech by one of their authors, Jessica Hall, and I think she did a great job. And Ms. Hall basically starts with the old adage of TV will rot your brain, and if you had boomer or older parents in your life, then you know you've heard that phrase multiple times. Obviously, I'm digressing right now. Let's get to the new information. This is interesting, and I think this was a great write-up. I'm going to be paraphrasing or quoting Ms. Hall pretty extensively here. Now, here's what's going on. A newly published report using data from an ABCD study, we will get to that in a second, indicates that screen time actually isn't too bad for your kids. On the contrary, video games may actually make them smarter. Now, this ABC study is the Adolescent Brain and Cognitive Development, ABCD. It's a gigantic longitudinal study of American children's health and brain development. Now, participants of this study begin about age 9 or 10 or so, and basically they are put through a ton of different tests and surveys, and then the project records a wide array of things like behavioral, biometric, and genetic information from the participants as well as their parents. The project, or rather, I should say, the project scientists then follow up with the participant families for about a decade until the kids are about 19, 20 years old, obviously young adults at that point. Now, data from the project is freely available for essentially any researcher to use for their own studies, and once or twice a year, the ABCD study releases another updated data set as they are continuously tracking these children. This is a huge endeavor, but it's paying off dividends because now researchers from the Vrije Universiteit Amsterdam, and I apologize to anybody that speaks Dutch, I do not, and the Karolinska Institute of Sweden, again, I don't speak Swedish either, have used that data to find out basically what video games are actually doing to the development of children's brains. Now, two of these new studies author explained in a joint statement, and I quote directly, "For our study, we were specifically interested in the effect of screen time on intelligence, the ability to learn effectively, think rationally, understand complex ideas, and adapt to new situations." Now, in particular, their model looked at how much time kids were spending basically staring at screens and even how they use their screen time. So, for example, most of the kids in the study use their screen times in 3 different core ways. Watching videos, things like YouTube, that kind of stuff, socializing online, typically probably through social media or messaging, all that, and also playing video games. So it compared, or rather the report compared gamers and non-gamers on tasks including reading comprehension, memory, visual spatial processing, and executive function. The researchers wanted to cover a wide variety of subdomains of intelligence, according to Ms. Hall. Now, study author Dr. Bruno Sauss explained in more detail in an interview with Ms. Hall of Extreme Tech, and I quote, "However, intelligence is highly heritable in the populations we've studied so far," end quote. Furthermore, quote, "genetic and socioeconomic factors were our 2 major confounders." Now, to account for variations in those factors, the researchers rolled in genetic data and socioeconomic information from the participants' parents. And after 2 years, the results that they produced showed that screen time basically had no negative effect on cognitive skills. Instead, kids who actually basically were gaming and stuck with gaming, meaning they were doing it constantly, showed a subtle but persistent improvement in their IQ. Now, another co-author, Torkel Klingberg, said, and I quote, "Our results support the claim that screen time generally doesn't impair children's cognitive abilities. Instead," and I quote again, "playing video games can actually help boost intelligence." And so I'm going to quote Ms. Hall directly as well, because I think she summed it up nicely in this paragraph. So I quote her verbatim, and I've been half quoting and paraphrasing this whole thing. So, to quote, "Here's the thing, play is practice. For example, learning to ride a bike improves your dexterity and timing. So does learning to play Super Mario Brothers. You're literally improving your dexterity stat in real life. That skill then makes it easier to learn in other situations that require coordination, balance, and strength. Likewise, team sports encourage cooperation and build conflict resolution skills. First-person shooters and racing games can even improve a person's reflexes." And she's absolutely right. If you do something over and over over and over as absolutely is true. And so there you have it. And obviously she goes on to talk about other things as well, you know, in this article. But I think this is just really interesting. I will say though the one thing that I think would have been interesting, yet the author didn't cover it, and I don't know if the researchers covered it, and obviously this wasn't the focus of the article, so I'm not knocking her in any which way, shape, or form. But what wasn't covered is how spending more time being sedentary, or mostly sedentary, when playing things like video games or watching YouTube, what are the effects of our physical health? I mean, I spend a ton of time in front of screens for work, also a little bit of leisure. You know, you're going to bed at the end of the day, you throw on Netflix, you know, that kind of thing. I'm not as active as, let's say, my parents were when they were my age, due to how the world has changed thanks to the computers and the internet. And I think that's something else that we need to see. We obviously have an obesity problem, basically in most modern countries where the internet is prominent. It's everywhere. It's ubiquitous. And I think that's something that we really need to address. I mean, it's one thing where we all buy exercise gear, assuming we use it, you know. It's another thing just to lead a normally active life by doing normally active things. And I think that's something that also needs to be studied. But obviously, that wasn't the focus of this. This was basically on the focus of video games, and are video games detrimental? Will they rot your brain? Sorry, boomers, they won't. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please attempt to stay private. Thanks, everyone.